A working dog could not read a map, but it could smell a lie in the route. The PA clock clicked through the Calder module, each number bouncing off wet steel and rubber matting. T-minus 45 minutes. Argo moved ahead of Vera on a short lead, nails ticking sharp against the slick deck, toward the door tagged green and safe in clean block letters. Smoke hung low around the threshold. Boots scraped behind them. Radios hissed. The observer deck had gone quiet in that ugly way. Rooms went quiet when everyone expected a clean performance and got a problem instead. Argo reached the green door, lowered his head once, took air through his nose, then sat hard. He didn't act cautious or confused, but stopped hard. His body locked so fast the lead went dead in Vera's hand. He stayed rooted. He didn't bark, didn't paw at the seam, and didn't glance back for praise. His dark sable shoulders tightened under the harness, one ear angled toward the door, breath ghosting white in the cold air. Vera felt the difference through the nylon. Panic had a tremor. Distraction had slack. This was neither. This was a trained stop, flat and certain, the kind that made smart people shut up for 3 seconds before they remembered their rank. "Move the dog," Boyd Shaw snapped from behind her. Vera kept her eyes on the threshold. She tightened one finger on the lead, just enough to steady herself, not enough to change Argo's line. No. The team, stacked in the corridor, froze badly, half committed, weapons down, rescue kit hanging off one shoulder, bodies trying not to admit that one silent animal had just stopped a live evaluation. Above them, behind glass, Commander Tamsin Greer leaned toward the rail. Vera did not need to look up to feel the observer deck watching. The Calder had cameras in every corner and judgment in the vents. Somebody's pen scratched once on a clipboard. Petty noises always got louder when people stopped breathing. "Senior Chief Kell," Greer said over the speaker, crisp and cold. "The PA clock is running." Boyd glanced at the overhead display, then back at Vera, like the numbers belonged to him personally. "So is the drill smoke, and the route is green. Get him off the door." Vera crouched without answering either of them. The rubber mat in front of green door was dry. It wasn't dry-ish, but completely dry. A clean, dull rectangle in a corridor where every other surface sweated water, boot mud, chlorine, and old salt. The hinge side had condensation. The wall had streaks. The deck 3 feet back shone black under the overhead lights. But the threshold itself looked wiped and left alone, as if the door had been dressed for inspection instead of used in a flooded compartment rescue drill. Argo's nose worked once more. He did not move. The smoke bothered her next. Training smoke had a cheap, sweet bite she knew too well, like hot plastic trying to pretend it was fire. This had a sharper edge under it, a sterile sting that did not belong with the canisters staged for this lane. It hit the back of her throat and vanished too cleanly. Wrong smoke, wrong floor, wrong dog behavior. 3 facts, none of them dramatic enough for the people upstairs. All of them ugly when placed together. Argo didn't fail, Vera said. Boyd gave a short laugh with no humor in it. That's generous. She stood slowly. Nobody opens green door. That got movement. 2 men in the stack shifted. One safety observer lifted his head. Boyd stepped close enough that Vera could smell coffee and wet NOMEX on him. "You don't lock down a live lane because your dog planted his ass," he said. Vera looked at him then. "Back off the dog." The words came out level. They needed to. Anger wasted oxygen, and the Calder already stole enough of that. Argo stayed seated between them, silent as a plug in the corridor, eyes fixed forward. Vera could feel the lead through her glove, one steady line of refusal. Greer's voice cut in again. "Kell, identify your indicators." Vera liked that better than belief. Belief was cheap. Indicators had weight. "Threshold is dry," she said. "Door seam has fresh laminate on the tag side. Smoke profile is wrong for this lane." "Smoke injects vary," Boyd said. "Not like that. Exercise control shows green remains safe," Greer said. "No full stop." Vera looked past Argo to the bottom edge of the door. Something under the steel gave a faint hollow knock. It wasn't the PA system or boots. A small shift, like water, nudging metal from the far side. Argo's ear twitched toward it. "There's water behind it," Vera said. Boyd's face changed, just a fraction. "Enough." Greer paused. In that pause, the PA clock skipped, the smallest hesitation, then resumed its calm countdown like nothing in the world had gone wrong. Vera heard it. She knew Greer heard it too. Limited pause, Greer ordered. "Hold the stack. Nobody opens green door until I clear it. Boone, verify route status and inject history. Shaw, keep your people off the threshold." Boyd swore under his breath, but he stepped back. The team relaxed by half an inch, which was all disciplined people allowed themselves. Vera crouched beside Argo and did not touch his head. Reward would tell him the job was over. It was not over. His shoulders stayed rigid. His eyes stayed on the seam. Behind the green door, something moved again through the steel. A low push of water, soft and heavy, where the safe route was supposed to be dry. The limited pause did not feel like a pause. It felt like everyone had agreed to stop moving their boots while the danger kept walking around without them. Vera kept Argo off the green door and moved with a narrow check team toward Casualty Bay, the PA clock still clicking through the overhead speakers. T-minus 42 minutes. The Calder module breathed cold air through its vents, and every wall seemed to sweat. Behind them, green doors stayed sealed. Ahead, a yellow casualty marker blinked above an open bay where the drill map said their first patient should be waiting. Silas Boone's voice came over comms before Vera reached the doorway. Exercise control shows one standard inject error. Smoke delay in lane 3. Nothing structural. Espo. Green route remains green. There it was. One true thing, maybe. Vera hated that. Clean lies were easier. Silas sounded flat and irritated. The voice of a man whose board had been questioned in front of a commander and who planned to survive by reading exactly what the board gave him. Still, a smoke delay could happen. A bad inject could happen. A dog could overread residue if a handler let pride get into the lead. The system had excuses stacked like crates. Then she saw the dummy shiver. The figure on the casualty platform wore the right moulage, the right orange tag, the right soaked training coverall. At first glance, he looked like a prop built by people who enjoyed realism too much. Then his left hand twitched under the blanket, not the broad theater twitch of an actor waiting to be noticed, but a small, useless flutter. His breath came out white and broken. Frosty, little ghosts. His lips had gone the wrong color. "That's Kip Rowan," Boyd said from the bay entrance. "Casualty actor." Vera was already on one knee beside him. "Kip." His eyes rolled toward her and did not quite land. "Actors can shiver," Boyd said. "Not like this." Vera peeled back one wet glove and pressed 2 fingers to Kip's wrist. His skin was cold enough to make her own fingertips ache through the glove seam. Pulse there, fast and thin. She touched his jaw, turned his face toward the overhead light, checked his pupils. One blinked late. His teeth clicked once, then stopped, which bothered her more than the shivering would have. A safety tech started to say something about scenario realism. Vera cut him off without looking up. "Blanket, dry one, now." Nobody loved taking medical direction from a K9 evaluator during a drill. Apparently because civilization enjoyed inventing new ways to waste seconds. The blanket came anyway. Vera slid it under Kip's shoulders with help from one of Boyd's men and felt water trapped in the coverall beneath him. It wasn't sprayed, but pooled. He had been lying wet too long. Kip's fingers caught her sleeve. Weak grip, real grip. "Green wasn't green," he whispered. The bay went quiet again. Vera bent closer. "Say it again." Kip's eyes squeezed shut. Door shut before the horn. Boyd looked toward the camera dome in the corner. Could be scripted. Vera reached under Kip's shoulder and found the casualty card clipped to the harness loop. Laminated, fresh ink, Wrong time block. It showed him staged 5 minutes after the PA horn that had supposedly sealed the lane. Vera held it up, but did not wave it around like theater. Evidence did not get stronger because someone shook it. Silas came back on comms. Card timing may reflect scenario update. We have normal drill variants. And Kip breathed in with a wet little hitch. 1. Water behind the wall. Vera looked at the wall beyond the bay. Steel, rivets, paint blistered near the lower seam. Argo stood at the doorway now, not alerting, just fixed on the corridor behind them, as if the route itself had a bad smell he could not spend yet. Kip pulled at her sleeve again, harder this time, panic burning through the cold. They moved the card. That landed differently, not like fear, like witness. Boots entered from the far side of the bay, heavy and uneven. A man in a rigging vest ducked under a hanging strap and stopped near the litter rack. Broad shoulders, one held a little stiff. Tape on 2 fingers. Machine oil, neoprene, stale coffee. Grady Holt looked at Kip, then at Vera, then at the clean strap coiled beside the rescue litter, like somebody had just unwrapped it for a catalog photo. Perfect drills make me itchy, he said. Good, Vera said. Scratch later. Grady crouched by the litter rack anyway, because gear people had a disease, and the disease was touching things before fear made them stupid. He ran 2 fingers along the strap. The webbing was bright, dry, almost new. Everything around it had saltware, rust dust, chipped paint, the tired look of equipment that had been dragged through years of wet training days. The strap did not belong to that family. Boyd saw him looking. Replacement gear? Maybe, Grady said, which was gear tech language for no. Vera tucked the casualty card into an evidence sleeve from the wall kit and marked the time with a grease pencil. Her hand stayed steady. That was useful. Not comforting, just useful. Kip's breath fogged again, thinner now. Limited pause is over in 90 seconds, Silas said. Vera looked at the card, then the clean strap, then the wall Kip had named. No, she said. It just became a patient hold. Nolan Vance came in smiling with a reset cart, which Vera hated on principle. Nobody good smiled that cleanly inside a freezing steel module, with one patient shaking himself half to death and a wall making water sounds. The cart rolled over the wet deck with a polite rubber squeak, loaded with zip bags, replacement tags, a tablet in a shock case, and a smoke canister crate with one corner already wiped clean. Nolan wore contractor gray, no rank, no hurry. He was helpful and smooth, the kind of man who looked like he had read every safety policy and found the soft spots. Silas Boone's voice snapped from the comms. Route control is ready to reinitialize. Exercise control shows a contaminated inject, not a structural incident. Nolan stopped beside the equipment cage and lifted both hands a little, palms open. That's a scoring issue. Vera stood between him and the crate before he finished the sentence. He blinked, not offended, not afraid, just adjusting. Senior Chief, I'm just here to clear the bad material and bring the lane back to baseline. Baseline moved, Vera said. Behind her, Argo's nails clicked twice on the deck, then stopped. The equipment cage was a narrow steel mouth packed with labeled bins, smoke cartridges, spare masks, orange casualty covers, and old training junk that never looked old enough to throw away. The air inside had layers: wet rubber, ozone from overworked electronics, chlorine from the flooded lanes. Under that, the sweet, acrid bite of training smoke, too candy sharp and too sterile, nothing like the dirty animal stink of real fire. Vera had smelled both. One crawled into fabric and stayed. The other announced itself like a cheap prop and vanished. This one did both wrong. Nolan reached for the crate handle. Reset the route. Vera caught the cart with one boot. Hands off. Ma'am, this is contractor-serviced equipment. If the inject is corrupted, I'm authorized to remove and replace it. Authorized by who? Exercise Control has the log. Exercise Control also had a fake patient turning blue. That got a small shift from him, tiny. 1. The smile stayed, because men like Nolan built whole rooms inside their faces. But his right hand drifted toward the tablet before he stopped himself. Argo moved then. He didn't aim for the man's hands, his pockets, or his throat, because Argo was not a cheap movie with teeth. He went straight past Nolan's knee to the smoke canister crate, lowered his head, took one hard pull of air, and sat. Hard. Same as Green Door. The room seemed to lose half its sound. No one liked seeing the same failure twice. Vera felt it ripple behind her, Grady's boots scraping, one safety observer sucking air through his teeth, the radio net tightening into quiet. Argo's eyes stayed on the crate. A clean glove lay tucked under the top strap, white nitrile against black plastic, too bright in that dirty cage. The glove had no wrinkles at the fingertips, no smoke soot, no wet smear. It looked placed, not dropped. That isn't drill smoke, Vera said. Nolan let out a careful breath. The dog is keying off residue from the bad inject. That supports my point. You don't have a point yet. I have a contaminated crate and a procedure for clearing it. You have evidence. That word finally made him look toward the observer deck camera. Greer's voice came over the speaker, lower than before. Vance, step back from the equipment. With respect, Commander, if we leave contaminated smoke in the cage, we compromise the entire lane. You heard her, Vera said. He stepped back. Only one pace. Enough to obey. Not enough to surrender. Cute trick. If anyone was still collecting those. Grady Holt pushed in beside Vera and crouched with the expression of a man being asked to identify a body he hoped was only asleep. Don't love that glove, he said. Nobody does. He touched the crate tag with two taped fingers. The top label was bright white, with a printed zone code, edges too square, adhesive too clean. Around it, the crate itself was scraped and salt-faded. Black plastic rubbed dull from years of being dragged by people who hated lifting with their legs. Grady hooked a fingernail under the new label and pulled. The sound was small and ugly. Adhesive tearing loose in slow fibers, a dry hook and loop rasp underneath. Everybody watched it happen, because apparently peeling a sticker had become the most interesting thing in the United States Navy. The new label came up halfway. Under it sat an older code, gray with grime, handwritten once and printed over later. It didn't belong to this lane, Casualty Bay, or Green Door. Vera leaned close enough to smell glue. Grady read it twice, then looked at the live route tablet strapped to the cage door. That zone isn't on today's overlay. Silas cut in fast. Inactive zones are excluded from live display by design. Then why is there smoke crate in our active cage? Grady said. Nolan's face stayed open, helpful, almost bored. Old stock gets misracked all the time. Vera looked at the glove, the crate, the half-torn label, then at Argo sitting like a nail driven into the deck. Greer did not order a full abort. Not yet. Vera could hear the cost of it in the silence. Secure the crate, Greer said. No reset, no removal. Boone, bring up inactive compartment overlays. Nolan nodded, like that had been his idea all along. Vera did not move her boot from the cart. The observer deck smelled like hot electronics and wet uniforms pretending they were dry. Ozone leaked from the comm station racks, sharp enough to sit on Vera's tongue. The live overlay filled the main screen in clean green lines, all confidence and no shame. Active route, safe corridor, Casualty Bay, extraction path, neat little boxes for a messy little world. Beside it, Grady had spread an old laminated Calder module map across the edge of the console, weighing one corner down with the smoke crate tag in an evidence sleeve. Silas Boone stood over both maps like they had personally insulted his family. That compartment is inactive, he said. Locked out, not assigned to today's scenario, unquote. Vera tapped the old map with one knuckle. It exists. I didn't say it doesn't exist. I said it is inactive. That was the kind of sentence systems people loved. True in one column, useless in water. On the screen, the chamber below green door was not missing exactly. Worse, it had been grayed out, boxed off, made irrelevant by administrative confidence. A dead room on a live board. A place people stopped seeing because the software told them not to bother. Grady leaned over the old map. This is the same zone code under the crate label. Silas shook his head. Old material, wrong rack. We already covered that. No, Vera said. You covered it. Badly. Nolan Vance stood 2 steps behind the console line, hands clasped at his waist, contractor badge shining under the fluorescent lights. He had followed them up from the cage without looking like he was following. Another cute trick. He watched the screen, not Vera. Watched the map like a man waiting for a stain to spread and hoping nobody else smelled bleach. We can isolate the contaminated inject and resume, Nolan said. The longer we hold, the less usable the evaluation data becomes. Tamsin Greer stood near the glass rail, arms still, eyes on the overlay. Data is not my casualty. No, ma'am, I understand. I'm saying the route can be corrected without escalating to full abort. Reset the route, Silas said, already reaching toward his console. Vera caught the motion. Not dramatic. Just a hand on his wrist before his finger touched the command pad. Silas looked down at her hand like she had placed a snake there. Don't, she said. All. His jaw tightened. Senior Chief, this board is live. So is Kip. The P. A clock continued overhead, calm as a machine could be, while humiliating everyone beneath it. T-minus 32 minutes. The numbers blinked on the side monitor in bright amber. Somewhere below them, water moved through steel, or the cauldron shifted, or Vera was hearing what she had already decided to hear. That was the miserable part. Good instincts still needed proof. Without proof, instincts were just expensive feelings wearing boots. She stepped away from the console and went to the bulkhead panel near the deck access stair. It was painted gray over old navy gray, over something older than that, and cold came through it, like the module had a pulse. Vera pressed her ear to the steel. At first, she heard the building. Vents, electrical hum, the muted cough of radios, boots on the deck above. Then, lower, another sound, a thicker push. Water against a surface where water should have been static. A vibration that dragged instead of rang. She flattened her palm against the panel. The steel trembled under her glove. Grady stopped talking. Silas said, That could be pump transfer. That, but from an inactive chamber? Vera asked. His answer took too long. Nolan filled it for him. There are maintenance loops all over this module. You'll chase ghosts if you listen to pipes during a live drill. Vera kept her ear against the steel. Then the ghost is cold and drowning. The first tap came so sharp it traveled through her jaw. Vera lifted her head. The second tap hit the panel, dry and metallic. It wasn't pump noise or thermal pop. A deliberate strike from the other side of thick steel. The third tap followed. Nobody spoke. The observer deck did not breathe. Even the PA clock seemed rude after that, clicking forward like it had somewhere better to be. 3 taps. Clean spacing. Human spacing. Cleo Dunn was not a name yet in Vera's mouth. Not fully. Just the outline of a person inside a space the board had grayed out because paperwork found it convenient. Greer moved to the console. There was no panic and no raised voice. Just that cold command tone that made people stop protecting their feelings and start protecting their hands. Exercise control. Hold all route resets. Mark inactive chamber adjacent to green door as contested. Open a 6-minute investigation window. No door actuation, no smoke purge, no equipment removal without my authorization. Silas looked like he had swallowed a bolt. Commander, 6 minutes does not support a full verification. I didn't grant full verification. Nolan's smoothness cracked just enough at the edge. Ma'am, if we break scenario integrity. Greer did not look at him. Scenario integrity is suspended inside the contested zone. Vera put her palm back on the steel. 3 more taps came through, weaker this time. The room stayed cold. The clock kept counting, and behind the wall, someone alive was spending strength to be heard. The corridor below the observer deck had gone mean with chlorine. It burned before Vera saw it, a white chemical slap that got into her sinuses and sat there like a bad idea. The PA clock kept speaking from somewhere above, soft and official and useless. T-minus 27 minutes. 6-minute investigation window, already bleeding out. Argo pulled ahead on the short lead, toward the wet steel intersection, head low, shoulders working. His nails clicked fast, then slower, then fast again. The leash had that living tension Vera trusted more than most human sentences. He had the route for maybe 20 feet, maybe less. Then, the deck changed under him. A hard, bright wash line cut across the corridor from bulkhead to drain. On one side, the floor was dirty the honest way. Boot grit, smoke residue, old salt, oil freckles. On the other, the steel had been scrubbed pale and harsh. Chemical clean. Too clean. So clean, it looked dead. Argo hit the boundary and stopped like he had walked into glass. He swung left, nose low, right, back again. His ribs moved harder under the harness. He tried to work the edge, took air, sneezed once, shook it off, then circled. He wasn't alerting or tracking, but working, failing. Dogs lost it, Boyd Shaw said, from behind her. Vera did not turn around. Boyd's voice had that blunt senior trainer weight to it, the kind meant to sound like reality even when it was just impatience wearing boots. Silas came over the comms, clipped and cold. Observer note, K9, delay at route intersection. No positive indication. Exercise control still shows no active route below green door. Another voice, one of the observers, lower, but not low enough. Second hesitation in the same lane. There it was, the neat little coffin they were building for Argo's credibility. First, he refused green door. Now, he could not carry the trail. 2 marks on paper, and paper loved simple stories because paper never had to smell chlorine. Argo circled again, tighter this time, frustration twitching through his shoulders. He looked once toward Vera, not asking for rescue, just reporting the wall. His nose could read old sweat, wet rubber, fear trapped in cloth, fresh adhesive, the sour metal tang of real blood under fake moulage. But chlorine was a bully. It did not argue. It erased. Vera felt her hand tighten around the lead. She had taps through steel. She had Kip shaking on a litter. She had a wrong crate label. She did not have a path. Not yet. And without a path, she had instinct. Instinct got people killed when it dressed itself up as proof. The thought landed flat in her chest. Not enough. Not enough yet. Equipment cage, she said, because the words came before she liked them. They washed the line after moving the crate. Trail loops back. Grady Holt, kneeling near the wash edge, glanced up. His face did not change much. It never did when the weather got bad inside his head. Maybe. Vera hated maybe. She stepped over the line, careful not to smear the boundary, and looked toward the far turn that led back toward the cage. It fit. Too neatly maybe, but it fit. Smoke crate. Clean glove. Nolan's reset cart. The kind of tidy answer a tired brain grabbed because it wanted the next door to exist where the last clue pointed. Argo sneezed again and gave up the scent, for real. He stood at the chemical edge, head low, ears back, not ashamed, because dogs had the decency not to invent ego around physics. Humans could learn from that, and absolutely would not. Boyd muttered, "That's the problem with building a case around a nose." Vera's jaw set. Grady said, "Hang on." He was not looking toward the equipment cage. He was looking down. Always down with Grady. Rings, clips, drains, buckles, the unglamorous stuff that kept heroic idiots from becoming paperwork. He pointed at the wash line, where it thinned near the deck drain. Water didn't run back to the cage. Vera followed his finger. The scrubbed streak had a faint feathering along one edge, almost invisible until the overhead light caught it. Cleaner fluid had flowed downhill, not across. The dirty side carried a soft crescent of residue around the drain grate, a gray lip of grit pulled toward the lower access stairs. The wash had not covered a trail moving back, it had cut off a trail moving down. Grady crouched lower and touched nothing. See that? Half a boot print sat under the bleach line, toe on dirty steel, heel gone under chemical white. Beside it, a strip of green root tape had been peeled halfway up and washed across, its adhesive edge curled like dead skin. Somebody had cleaned fast and badly after the floor already had traffic on it. After the drill started, Vera stared at it for half a second too long, long enough to feel the correction sting. Good, let it. Being wrong should leave a mark. She keyed her mic. Greer. Wash line cuts a boot print and root tape. Cleaning happened after drill start. Trail was killed at the intersection. Silas answered first. Naturally, that is an interpretation. No, Grady said, still crouched. It's a mop job with a guilty conscience. Boyd stepped closer, quieter now. Lower access? A. Vera looked down the corridor. The stairwell beyond the drain was dark, wet, and narrow. The air rising out of it smelled like cold metal, stale water, and the part of a ship nobody invited guests to see. Argo stood at the wash line and did not cross until Vera shortened the lead and stepped with him. He could not solve the dead scent. That mattered. It mattered more than a clean alert would have. The trail had not disappeared by accident. Someone had murdered it with bleach and sent the rest downhill. Vera gave Argo 2 fingers against his harness. Not praise, just contact. Lower access, she said. The PA clock clicked again overhead. 20 minutes and change. Behind them, the corridor smelled like evidence destruction. Ahead of them, the dark stairs waited, dripping. The official hoist line came down while Vera was still staring at the lower access stairs. Bad timing, which meant it was probably planned or somebody's idea of efficiency. Same difference when a patient was cold and a board was lying. The cable dropped from the overhead rig with a soft metallic rattle, then steadied over the staging area outside Casualty Bay. Kip Rowan was already being rolled toward it under a dry blanket, gray-faced and breathing in thin little puffs that fogged and vanished. The PA clock had T-minus 20 minutes left to offer humanity, and humanity, naturally, was trying to spend it on the wrong procedure. Nolan Vance walked beside the litter with his tablet tucked against his ribs. He wasn't pushing exactly, but guiding, nudging the whole room back into the shape he liked. We can preserve the evaluation timeline if we extract the training casualty through the official route, he said. Keep the contested zone isolated. Reset the route after patient movement. Cleanest option. Cleanest. Vera almost laughed. It would have come out ugly. Tamsin Greer stood near the lower access prep rail, eyes moving between Kip, the hoist, and Vera. Status on lower access? Trail goes down, Vera said. Washed after start. Silas came over comms. Official route remains authorized for casualty movement. Nolan nodded once, smooth as a closing drawer. Then we should use it. Grady Holt had not moved toward the stairs. He had gone to the litter rack like a man drawn by a bad smell only he could hear. The clean strap from Casualty Bay was no longer sitting beside the gear like a shiny little mistake. It was rigged into the official extraction line, threaded through old hardware with the confidence of a lie told in a neat font. Nylon creaked as the line took light tension. The sound was small but sharp, a throat clearing before disaster. Perfect drills make me itchy, Grady said. Nolan gave him a polite look. All replacement components are logged. I bet they are. Grady put his bare fingertips on the strap. No gloves, just skin. He ran them along the webbing, over the stitching, down to the hoist ring clipped into the litter frame. Vera watched his thumb slow at the metal. The ring was too smooth, too bright along the edge where salt should have chewed the finish. Everything around it looked tired. Chipped paint, rust freckles, old rub, marks from old hands. The ring looked like it had never had a bad day in its life. That door is cleaner than my divorce paperwork, Grady said. Boyd, standing over Kip, frowned. Door? Figure of speech. Try to keep up. Grady turned the ring a quarter inch. It seated wrong. Not loudly. Wrong things rarely announced themselves. They just waited for load. Argo stood beside Vera's left knee, damp harness dark against his coat. He was not sitting, not alerting. Good. The last thing they needed was everyone pretending the dog had become a magic stamp machine. But his body leaned away from the line, a minor unease that traveled through the leash like a bad radio signal. His nose worked once toward the clean strap, then cut off. Chemical wash still lived in the corridor behind them. Smoke still hung in the metal. His world was crowded and ugly, and even he seemed tired of human equipment. Nolan looked from Argo to the line. If the dog is not indicating, I'm not sure why we're delaying a casualty movement. Vera did not answer him. She looked at Grady. Grady had gone quiet. That was worse than his jokes. He lifted the strap with 2 fingers and looked at the old litter frame beneath it. That ring's new. Everything around it is old. How bad? Vera asked. I can tell you what it should do. I can't promise what it will do after idiots touch it. Tamsin stepped closer. Plain language, Holt. Grady pointed with the ring, not explaining the whole church of rigging because nobody had time to attend services. This line does not belong on this kit. It shifts the pull through the wrong point. Nolan's mouth tightened. That's speculative. No, Grady said. Speculative is your haircut. This is metal. The line creaked again as a tech above took up slack. Grady stood. Wrong line. Don't lift. For a second, nobody moved, and the whole module seemed to hang from that one sentence. Kip's litter waited under the cable. The lower access stairs waited in the dark. The contested chamber waited behind grayed-out software and thick steel. Vera could see the shape now. Not all of it, but enough. Wrong safe door, wrong smoke, wrong map, wrong line. Every official thing had been made just clean enough to kill someone while looking correct. Nolan spoke quickly. Commander, stopping the hoist now risks patient exposure and destroys the evaluation record. Vera looked at Tamsin. No plea, no speech. Just the facts stacked between them, like wet gear on a deck. Tamsin keyed her mic. Hoist team, freeze load, maintain patient hold. Lower access team has 1 action window. 4 minutes to verify route below green door. No lift without my command. Silas, cut in. Commander, that splits response authority. It narrows it, Greer said. Vera liked her a little for that. Not much, a little. Boyd moved first, because for all his mouth, he knew when the floor had changed. He pointed 2 operators toward the stairwell. Grady grabbed a compact light and clipped it to his vest. Argo shifted forward, not eager, not afraid, just ready to work where his nose could still matter. Vera tightened the lead and stepped toward the lower access. Cold air came up the stairwell, wet and metallic, carrying the smell of old water behind locked steel. Behind her, the official line hung unused above Kip Rowan, clean and wrong. Ahead, the stairs dropped into the dark. The lower access stairs dropped into water before they dropped into darkness. Vera felt it climb her boots, then her calves, then her thighs, as the stairwell opened into the dead belly of the Calder module. The air had weight: salt water, rust, old rubber, machine oil, and that sour wet metal smell that lived in places people locked and forgot until something went wrong. Steel banged somewhere ahead, loose and hollow, like the module was knocking from the inside. Grady's light cut a hard white cone through the dark. Pipes, hanging cable, a low ceiling, sweating droplets. Water moved in black ripples around their legs, dragging at every step. Argo went ahead on a short lead, slower now, nose working where the wash line had not murdered the world. Vera gave him 6 feet, no more. He stopped at a narrow side passage where green route tape had been slapped crooked across a support beam. The tape said go. Argo said no. He threw his body sideways before Vera could call him back, blocking the marked passage with his shoulder and chest. His paws hit a grating panel, hidden under black water. The panel shifted with a harsh scrape. Metal dropped half an inch. Argo's rear leg slipped through. His shoulder slammed the beam, and the sound that came out of him was short, tight, real pain with no theater in it. "Argo!" Vera lunged. Grady caught the back of her vest before she went down with him. The grating bucked again. Argo twisted, got his front paws under him, and dragged free. Dark staining opened on the gray steel below the waterline, spreading around his left paw. For 1 second, Vera saw only that. An injury from a dog who had trusted her to read the route right. Red on gray, work paid for in effort. Great. Add it to the bill. She got one hand under his harness. Easy. Argo trembled, but stayed up. He favored the paw, breath chopping white in Grady's light, still facing the bad passage, still blocking it. Grady swept the beam across the marked lane. The far panel hung loose over a drop, water churning beneath it. The safe path would have folded under a loaded litter, or a person, or all of them, if the Calder felt ambitious. "Marked safe," Grady said. "Anything honest down here would be rude." They moved around the broken grating. Argo limped beside Vera now, not ahead. She shortened the lead until his shoulder brushed her leg. He hated it. She hated it more. Staining threaded into the water in thin ribbons, small but visible, and every step cost him. No brave dog miracle. Pain had physics too. The passage opened into a low chamber with a half-submerged service platform and a pressure door jammed by a bent pipe wrench. A woman lay wedged against the rail, one arm hooked through it like she had tied herself to the last thing that would not float away. Dark hair plastered to her face, lips pale, no dramatic shivering. That was worse. Her body had gone quiet. Vera dropped to one knee, cold water cutting through her pants. "Cleo Dunn?" The woman's eyes moved under half-closed lids. Slow. "There. Cleo, I'm Vera. I've got you." No answer. Just shallow breath. Grady braced the light. "She's got something on her vest." Vera peeled back the soaked front panel. A torn access badge clung to a strap by one melted corner. Cleo Dunn. Across the plastic ran a brown mud line, straight as a ruler, matching the stain on the chamber wall. Cleo had spent strength, leaving proof where someone might find it. She wasn't a prop or a passive casualty. An engineer, freezing to death, and still marking the room. Vera respected that for about half a second, then buried it because respect did not warm anybody. She checked Cleo's airway, jaw, pulse. Cold skin, weak response. Vera slid a thermal wrap from her pack and worked it under Cleo's shoulders with Grady's help. The move made Cleo gasp, eyes snapping wider. "Easy," Vera said. "Don't fight us." Cleo's fingers caught Vera's sleeve, barely any grip. "Enough. Line," she breathed. Grady leaned closer. "What line?" Cleo swallowed. Her teeth clicked once. "Clean line," Vera stilled. Cleo's eyes rolled upward, toward the pad above, toward the official Hoist waiting like a polite executioner. Not old kit, clean line. They moved it. In the comm, Tamsin cut through static. "Lower access team, status. Your window is closing." Vera looked down the flooded passage where Nolan was not, where revenge was not, where every angry instinct wanted to go. Then Cleo's breath hitched under her glove, and the choice became simple. "Patient found," Vera said. "Alive, hypothermic, evidence confirmed. We are not chasing anyone." Argo leaned against her leg, staining the water. Cleo dragged one more whisper out of herself. "Don't lift through the clean line." The extraction pad above them had become loud in the way bad systems got loud when they were trying to win an argument. Alarms pulsed. Fake smoke rolled under the overheads. The PA clock counted down inside all of it, calm and obscene. T-4 minutes. Vera came up from lower access with Cleo wrapped tight and barely responsive. Grady on the rear carry, Argo limping at Vera's knee and leaving small dark marks wherever his paw touched steel. Kip's litter waited off to one side, still held, still breathing. Two quiet patients now. One loud drill, pretending it deserved attention. A horn blasted. Somebody shouted about a simulated breach. Beautiful timing. Truly, the theater department had outdone itself. Vera felt Argo's heartbeat through the lead where her hand had dropped low near his harness. Fast. Too fast. Pain and work and cold running together inside one body that still insisted on standing. Nolan stood near the hoist control lane, tablet up, voice smooth over the noise. Resume official extraction. We have a deteriorating actor and a non-standard patient movement. The cleanest route is still the authorized route. Cleanest again. Vera looked at Cleo's gray face. No speech, no plea, just the truth getting quieter. Quiet patient first, she said. The hoist line took tension above the staging mark. Nylon creaked, sharp and small under the alarms. The clean strap ran through the old frame, too bright against rust and chipped paint, like a fresh bandage on a casualty. Vera saw Grady see it. His eyes went flat. Argo saw it differently, smelled it differently. He pulled once toward the strap. Vera let him go far enough to choose. If he had been fresh, he would have hit the alert clean and hard. He was not fresh. He limped 3 steps, shoulder dropping, paw slipping on wet steel. For half a second, Vera thought he might fold. Then Argo sat, hard. His injured paw hovered off the deck. His body shook with the effort, but he stayed seated, eyes locked on the clean strap, silent as a verdict. No bark, no teeth. Just refusal, paid for in effort. Nolan spoke fast. The dog has been exposed to multiple contaminants. That indication is not reliable. Vera did not look at him. Grady was already there. He dropped to one knee beside the line and put bare fingers on the gear. Cold metal, wet nylon, old frame, new ring. He turned the hoist ring and checked how the strap rode through the frame. He made one small sound in his throat. Not a curse. Worse. Confirmation. This lift goes through the wrong point, Grady said. Loaded, it snaps or twists the litter into the wall. Maybe both. Silas came over comms. Tight. Board shows authorized extraction path. Hoist team awaiting command. Nolan stepped closer to the console boundary. Commander, we have procedure. We have a time-critical patient. If we keep improvising, we own every consequence. Tamsin Greer stood at the rail above the pad, face white under the fluorescence, measuring. Evidence threshold, Vera thought. Kip alive when he should have been fake. Smoke crate from a locked-out zone. Clean strap on old gear. Cleo's badge with the waterline. Argo, injured, in front of the final wrong object. Enough. Greer keyed the command channel. Exercise control. Freeze hoist state. Remove Silas Boone from route authority for contested extraction. Lock contractor inputs. Route board status is subordinate to physical verification. Hoist team, decouple from official line. Safety team, prepare empty load test on suspect strap only. No patient movement without my direct command. Silas sounded stunned. Commander, you're overriding live control. Correct. Nolan's voice sharpened. That is outside scenario protocol. Greer looked down at him. Scenario protocol is no longer controlling this event. The security lights over the contractor console flipped from green to amber. Nolan tapped his tablet once, twice, harder, the second time. Nothing. A maglock snapped somewhere behind him with a clean metallic click. A side gate slid shut across the control lane, not dramatic, just final. 2 safety officers moved toward him with the tired efficiency of men who had been waiting for permission to dislike someone professionally. The hoist team ran the empty load pull. No patient, no heroics, just the suspect strap and a weighted frame taking tension while everyone watched. The nylon stretched, the clean ring shifted. For one ugly second it held, which was the cruelest thing equipment could do. Then it snapped. The sound cracked across the pad like a rifle shot. The loose end whipped sideways and slammed into the metal wall hard enough to dent it. Cleo flinched under the wrap without waking. Kip groaned. Argo stayed seated until Vera touched his harness. "Good," she whispered. "Too low for anyone else." Grady exhaled. Would have killed her. Vera looked at the clean strap hanging in ruined curls against old steel. Wrong door. Wrong smoke. Wrong map. Wrong line. A perfect drill, bleeding out one lie at a time. Greer's voice came over the system, colder than the water below. "Correct extraction path only. Move the real patient first." Vera tightened her grip on Cleo's litter and stepped forward. Argo rose beside her on 3 good legs, shaking, hurt, still working. The debrief area had lights that made everyone look half dead and legally inconvenient. Fluorescent tubes buzzed over folding tables, wet gear, evidence sleeves, and coffee nobody had touched. The room smelled of sterile wipes, printer heat, damp nylon, and fresh ink. A truly inspiring blend if your dream was to die inside a government form. Vera sat on the cold floor with Argo's injured paw across her thigh. He had stopped shaking, mostly. Not because he was fine, because exhaustion had finally gotten a vote. His sable coat was still wet along the belly and legs. The torn pad had soaked through the first wrap, dark staining blooming under white gauze. His shoulder twitched when she moved him wrong. She did not move him wrong twice. Across the room, 2 medics rolled Cleo Dunn past the open door under a thermal blanket, oxygen mask fogging faintly with each breath. Kip Rowan followed on another litter, pale and bruised, and still conscious enough to look ashamed for surviving a role he had been hired to fake. Nobody called it a miracle. Good. Miracles were just failures people had not audited yet. On the nearest debrief table, the evidence lay in clean little rows. Green door tag, half-peeled smoke crate label, the bright, clean glove from the equipment cage, Cleo's torn badge in a sleeve, the mud line still visible across the plastic, a fragment of the snapped strap curled like dead skin, the new hoist ring bagged separately, too shiny, even under bad light. Grady Holt stood over the table with his arms crossed, one shoulder riding stiff and high. He looked like he wanted to make a joke and could not find one cheap enough to survive the room that was probably healthy. A Navy investigator with tired eyes photographed the items one by one. Another tech sealed the contractor tablet inside a bag marked for legal hold. Nolan Vance was nowhere in the room. That was the best thing he had done all day. Vera had heard the words contractor access review, safety investigation, telemetry records, and federal notification float through 3 different radios. None of it needed her. Not yet. Later, there would be statements and signatures, and men with clean cuffs asking questions in rooms that did not smell like floodwater. Later, could go get in line. The system printer woke up on the side counter with a dry mechanical hum. Everyone heard it because the room had gone too quiet again. Paper fed through. Plastic gears clicked. Fresh ink rolled hot onto white stock. Tamsin Greer crossed to the printer, pulled the page free, and stood there long enough for the machine to spit out a second sheet beneath it. Her face did not change. That was becoming a theme with her. She carried the page to the evidence table and set it down beside the green door tag. Vera saw the bold line from where she sat on the floor. Drill failed. Not compromise drill. Not rescue. Successful. Not 2 patients recovered because one dog refused to obey a lie. Just drill failed in heavy black print, the kind of official truth that missed the point so cleanly it almost deserved a salute. Grady looked at the page. "Well," he said, voice rough, "technically, it ain't wrong." Vera tore a strip of medical tape with her teeth, then remembered she had hands like a civilized person and used them instead. The tape made a sharp, clean ripping sound. Argo shifted against her leg. She pressed the gauze down gently and rapped again. He failed the drill because the drill lied. Nobody answered that right away, which was fine. The words did not need a response. They needed a place to land. Tamsin Greer looked from the failed report to Argo, then to Vera. No smile, no speech, no public blessing from the mountain. She gave one small nod. almost too small to count unless you were trained to read tiny movements under pressure. Vera counted it. Then Greer turned back to the table and told the investigator, "Tag the report with the physical evidence chain. Preserve route control logs and hoist state records. No release until review authority clears it." Cold. Exact. Useful. Vera respected useful. She finished the wrap around Argo's paw and taped the end flat. His breathing slowed under her palm, warm against the chill coming through the floor. Darkly stained gauze lay discarded in a small pile beside her knee. Grady came over and lowered the printed report onto the table edge near the medical waste bag, not on the dirty floor, not quite away from the dog either. It slid, light as nothing, until one corner rested over the stained gauze. "Drill failed" lay across the red, like a label finally attached to the right object. Vera sat with one hand on Argo's harness and listened to the room settle around them. The last sound was medical tape tearing clean in the cold air.